7 overall to the Dallas Wings. Meanwhile, Tim Legler back in our studio, and with apologies again to our buddy Graziano, we're going to steal his bit and do Overreaction Tuesday. So I'll say something, Legler, and you tell me if that something is an overreaction. So if I were to say Russell Westbrook will not be a Laker next season, would that be an overreaction?
Absolutely an overreaction to be that definitive about it. It's one thing to say, well, they're going to trade Russell Westbrook because it didn't fit and he didn't play well this year. It's far more complicated than that in the NBA, particularly when a guy's going to opt into a $47 million deal. Now, doesn't mean it can't be done, because there are teams out there that might make that move because they want to shed that contract the following summer. So then the question becomes, do what the Lakers get back in return, does that make sense to pair with LeBron James and Anthony Davis?
All right, the next one. If I were to say, as Shaquille O'Neal did the other night, the Raptors are going to get swept by the Sixers, would that be an overreaction?
A massive overreaction. Not only are they not going to get swept, I think this series is a coin flip. And I think Philadelphia must win those first two games at home. If they split and they go up to Toronto, they don't have Thibault going into those games, I think they're in serious trouble. And Pascal Siakam has been a tough matchup for Philadelphia.
Once again, Shaq predicted a sweep. Finally, if I were to say with Ben Simmons, the Nets will get to the Eastern Conference Finals, would that be an overreaction?
Not at all. I mean, they could get there potentially without Ben Simmons. And if you add him to the mix and he plays anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes a night, you're talking about a guy that gives them the two things they really need, which is playmaking and pace for the role players, and then obviously elite level defense.
So let me bring Zach Lowe in here, and let's dive into this a little. We will see the Nets tonight. They play in the play-in tonight at home against Cleveland. I want to make sure it's clear to everyone exactly how this goes from here. If the Nets win tonight, they are the 7 seed. They would play Boston in the first round. Should they lose tonight, they could still win on Friday against the winner of Atlanta-Charlotte. And at that point, if they win, they'd be the 8th seed, which means they would play Miami. So, Zach Lowe, I can't get a read on what you think of the Nets. As they head into this here, the Simmons factor is at this point somewhat undetermined as what exactly they will get from him. What do you think as far as the Nets' short-term and long-term future here, meaning tonight and then the next few weeks?
Well, I think they win tonight, and if they do win tonight, they kind of opt into the toughest possible path to where you think they're going to go, Greeny. They'd have to go Boston, Milwaukee, and then who's ever left over. And I think Boston and Milwaukee are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, assuming Robert Williams III comes back soon. And to me, the Nets, we know what their upside is. We know who the two stars are. We know the Simmons rumblings are out there. It just feels like to beat two teams that good, it's got to be your year. It's got to be a year where everything coalesces, where you know yourself as a team, where you've been healthy, where you have a guy like Joe Harris who we've all forgotten about. Sometimes it's just not your year. So where do I stand on the Nets? I keep saying this, and it's vague maybe, but this is what I feel. They could win any one series against any of these Eastern Conference powerhouses, though I think it's unlikely against Boston and Milwaukee. But winning 2 or 3 in a row is just so hard. It just doesn't feel like their year to do that. It feels like not enough has come together for them.
How much do they need from Simmons, Tim, to get something significant done?
They need just a guy that can come in and give them 15 minutes of defense more than anything else. Look, he's going to be a complete non-factor offensively. The guy sat out a year. He's a reluctant scorer as it is. You might be able to get him something easy as a slasher or in transition. But look, he can take the ball off the glass, push it, and get Steph Curry a wide open shot. Get Andre Drummond a dunk on a drive and a drop off. He can create offense for the people, but we're not going to be talking about his offense at all. This is a two-man show for that team offensively. It's the other end of the floor. 6'10", athletic, versatile. Can you just give us 15 minutes of guarding the Jason Tatums of the world, the Jalen Browns, the Jimmy Butlers, the Giannis's? Just give us 15 minutes of solid defense. It makes them much better than they are right now.
I feel like you're nodding your head at this, Zach. How much could Simmons, depending on what we get from him, alter your thinking on the Nets?
I find it hard to believe that after a year away and after a back injury, he's going to come in as the kind of force that can make me really change my mind that this team can make the finals and win the title, the kind of team that we all thought they would be. He would help. Absolutely. They need defense. They can't stop anybody right now, and he would help with that. He's a force in the open court, like Legs just said. And look, people are scoffing at the Nets. I hear a lot of, why are people so scared of the Nets? But just think about this. If you have Kyrie, KD, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and let's say Patty Mills, like, you're not guarding that team. That's 4 elite shooters and Ben Simmons doing whatever it is he's going to do. Set screens, bring the ball up. You're not guarding that team. They might not be able to guard you, but they're going to outscore you on a lot of nights. That's a scary, scary team. I just don't think it's enough. Again, Boston, Milwaukee, theoretically back-to-back in 7-game series. That is brutal.
Yeah, you didn't play in a league that had a play-in tournament, so this was never part of your. But it's a dangerous game to say lose tonight and win on Friday, but it does get you Miami and which might be. You don't lose the game tonight.
No,
right?
And here's why. Because you put yourselves then in a situation where foul trouble, an off night by one of your stars, somebody gets hurt, and you're going home for the summer. So you don't even think about trying to manipulate this. You show up, you win the game. I agree with Zach. They're going to win the game tonight, and they're going to get Boston.
Well, we'll see what happens. So that's tomorrow night. We will have the Hawks and the Hornets. That's the games we've got tomorrow night. 7 Eastern, we've got Trae Young's Hawks, LaMelo Ball on the Hornets. That's the 9-10 game in the East. Then we have the 9-10 game in the West between the Pelicans and the Spurs. Losers are out. Our coverage begins tomorrow night with NBA Countdown, 6:30 Eastern. You'll see it all right here on ESPN. Back to the NFL, where yesterday 6 more teams kicked off their voluntary offseason workouts, and one of those, the Denver Broncos. And Russell Wilson has been busy since he's gotten there. So Thursday night, he was at the Nuggets game. You see him having some fun there, throwing footballs around. Next day, he's at Coors Field for the Rockies home opener, throwing out the first pitch to Chris Bryant. Wilson, by the way, was drafted by the Rockies in addition to playing football. Yesterday, his first official workout with his Broncos teammates, which include fellow former NC State player Bradley Chubb. Marcus Beers was here on this show yesterday talking about what getting Wilson means for the Broncos right now.
Look, Denver is they're going to take some lumps figuring this thing out. Russell Wilson is great. He's a great quarterback. After Beast Mode left, after Marshawn Lynch and the Legion of Boom left, Russell Wilson was carrying this team for years. So now you look at this Denver team, which we talked all last year, with the perception that Aaron Rodgers could potentially end up there being a quarterback away. This is a good consolation prize to get Russell Wilson in this particular situation.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. So, Teddy Bruschi, it does beg the question. What do they have to do? What does this team have to accomplish to make this seem worth it? What would constitute, in your mind, a successful season for Russell Wilson and the Broncos?
Guys, you make the playoffs out of that division, and that's a successful season in my mind. I think they are a much better team. Russell Wilson is a great quarterback, like Swagu's saying right there. But towards the end of this season, when you get to December, I mean, you could go through 3 straight weeks. We all know how the NFL structures scheduling, okay? And at the end of the schedule, to make things interesting, they think it's always good to have divisional games at the end. So they will go right through the NFC West during the month of December. So to see how they go through that, those are playoff games in themselves in terms of how tough this division will be. So if they make it out of that and they make the playoffs, I think that's a huge success for the Denver Broncos, but that's the goal right there, because the bounce of a ball in those few games, you can go from winning the division or not making the playoffs. That's how crucial I think December is going to be in the AFC West.
Does Russell Wilson have anything to prove, Bart? I mean, does he need to prove something here?
I don't know if he has something to prove. We're talking about a Super Bowl champion. You talk about a guy who's taken a team to the Super Bowl twice. You know, that's a hefty resume in today's climate. I think, to Teddy's point, success looks like going to the postseason, right? Because that team, whoever comes out of that division, is probably going to be 2 or 3 teams that maybe go to the postseason. And if, to Teddy's point, you bounce the ball, you can go from winning a game and possibly being in meaningful games. This isn't apples to apples when people consider what Matthew Stafford did last year. This was a team, in the Rams that went to the Super Bowl and was looking to get over the top. This is a team that won 7 games last year. And if you think about what Russell's WAR should be, if this team's +3, that's a successful season.
Yeah, wins above replacement. What do you think? How do you see the pressure and the way the league is viewing this enormous move of Russell Wilson to Denver?
I mean, in my mind, I think they don't have to win a Super Bowl this year, but they do have to show progression. I mean, they got to show that, they're going to be battle ready. I think, if they win the Super Bowl in the next 3 to 4 years, that would be the win, right? I don't think it's happening this year just because, their division is already stacked as it is.
But here's the thing. We live in a world where Tom Brady changes teams and wins the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford changes teams and wins